Hey guys, and welcome to part 3 of What If the Governor Met Negan, the remake. Now, in the last episode, we covered pretty much a handful of stuff regarding Carol, Abraham, and the entrance to Terminus in a much different way. And then at the end, we covered the governor trying to make a deal with Negan, give him a sword, and the permission to kill Rick, Darrow, and Michonne to ever appear again, if they were, under the condition he tells Negan who he is, and why he was the way he was, with the eye patch and, the way he was. So in this episode, we see the governor reveal, in a governor way, Negan, his backstory. He talks about the town he used to pretty much lead, Woodbury, and how he was very good at it. But that all changed when two women appeared at his doorstep, Michonne and Andrea. They stabbed him in the eye, killed his daughter, and, with the help of many others, burned his camp and left him to search and scavenge and pretty much be a shell of the man he used to be. And they were in cahoots with a man and with people named Rick and Daryl and his own former Lieutenant Merle, who he was able to kill before he was eventually overpowered by Rick and his people. Ever since then, he had just been trying to get away from it all just so he could live. Trying to scavenge what little he could. He was lucky that Negan found him when he did. Otherwise, to be fair, after all he'd went through, probably would have felt better if he died. But now, because of what he's been shown in the sanctuary, he's ready to fully pledge loyalty to Negan if he agrees to his little demands, now that he's revealed his backstory, or, a governor backstory, the same he did with Lily and her family. Speaking of which, you might think that Negan wouldn't be such a fool to fall for this, like Tara and them all were, but he does, because the governor would make it in a way where Negan would have to believe him, and he does. So, the governor gets his sword, and even though it's highly against Negan's string of influence, allows him, if the time ever were to come, that Rick, Darrow, and Michonne die and get tortured at the governor's hands. But no one else. He has to pledge loyalty to Negan fully and completely, now that he's been given these demands. And, with all of this, and the upcoming possible reunion with the three, the governor gets into a friendship with the Croat. And that's where we leave that little string for the moment, because we're going to be touching in a lot with them until, they meet Rick and all of them again, because that will happen. Back at Terminus, Rick and the group start to slowly close in on the place in a much different way. I feel that they would still bury guns, but they would just be getting into the process of that and getting to the town whenever Rick sees something. Daryl comes out of one of the trees, or one part of the woods rather, with two people who we know to be Rosita and Eugene, about to make their plan. They left Martin at the cabin to still enact their plan, but they saw Rick's group, and that's why they really left them, because they weren't able to really get their plan done. They thought these people could help them. And Rick, he doesn't know what's going on, and thinks that these two are like spies or something, and asks who they are, did they come from the town, and what's going on. Rosita explains the whole deal on who they are, and they gotta get Eugene to DC because he has the cure for it all, and that they should not go to Terminus, and they actually had a plan to get two of their people back, but then they saw Rick's people and decided to go to them for help, and think that they'll be good to get two people that they lost back. And Rick asks who these people are, because of course he's not going to know that Carol's down there yet, but he decides to go along with this and asks who the people are that are down there. Eugene says one of them's Sergeant Abraham Ford, a real muscle tower, and with orange hair that could really help, and a gray-haired woman named Carol. And this immediately shocks the entirety of the group, because remember, Carol was still banished in this story, which she was canonically, and she just saved everyone's lives. Mika's the first to react to this because she has not heard that name or seen Carol since the prison, and she didn't even know she was banished. Daryl did, and he is the next to react to this because he's the one that got mad at Rick for doing it. So you can imagine how heartfelt this is going to touch Daryl especially. Rick is the final one to react and says that no matter what, they were probably going to go along with this plan because there isn't too much of it that sounds far-fetched, but now they're definitely going to go and seek extra precaution and go along with the plan because Carol's down there, even if she did kill Karen and David. Eugene explains the full... Well, they already explained who they are and everything, but he explains more about the mission and everything else, and that they need Abraham especially. But they had a plan to get both of them back regardless. Then Eugene goes on to explain that they have one of the people from Terminus held captive in his own cabin, and said that before Rick and his people showed up around the corner of where the cabin was, their plan was to make a trade with Martin for, Abraham and Carol. Kind of a far-fetched trade, but it was the best they could come up with. And Rick says they'll get the trade done either way, because these people, even though there's not too much they know about them, the fact of the matter is they kidnapped one of their own and one of, their own, if you know what I mean. So Rick nods in approval with the plan and sends Daryl and Michonne to go to the cabin where Martin has awoken because he was knocked out after being restrained, and ultimately take him, and the entire group heads off to Terminus to complete the plan. Now, at Terminus, they enter in a sort of way that they did originally, just to make sure they're not sneak attacked. Once in, the mood gets really serious after Gareth tries to introduce himself and say, "Welcome to Terminus, fake, blah 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 blah." But Rick shuts that crap down immediately, now knowing not about the cannibalism, but that these people cannot be trusted, since they have two of their own held captive, and immediately asks to have his people back. Gareth tries to question this almost immediately, still playing the somber, "oh, we're not evil" routine, and all this, Gareth style. But Rick just does not buy into any of it, saying that, "You guys have two of our people, we have one of yours, so how about we just make this very, very simple, and you give us our people, and we give you yours." And then Rick goes on to further explain, once Gareth starts to question, "one of our people? What do you mean?" And the mood turns pretty serious pretty straight away after they had just gotten into Terminus. Rick goes on to explain that they encountered one of their people in a cabin named Martin, and heard that two people approached here, which is two of their group, and they want him back. And this trade is going to work, and he's going to agree to this. Gareth, I mean. Gareth, for one thing, thinks that these people are just lying, and goes on to say, "Why should we believe you that you kidnapped Martin? And on another hand, why should we listen to you with this deal?" And like I said, the mood is turning pretty serious pretty right away. But Rick isn't fazed in the slightest. Even though cannibalism isn't known to the Terminus people at the time, like I said, they're still known to be pretty crazy to Rick and their people. And with one smirk from Rick, he pushes Martin forward, who is very injured and looking exactly like he did before he was killed by Sasha, albeit from the stab marks because, he's not dead yet. So, yeah, he's pretty roughed up because Rick gave him a little bit of a beating himself for the trickery that the Terminus people put them through. Rick now says to Gareth that there should be no doubt in Gareth's mind that they are serious and that they are telling the truth, and it should be a further sign to give him their people back. And he isn't playing around anymore, and says that if they don't give the people back, he's just going to kill Gareth and Martin and everybody here right now. Rick is at that point where he's starting to get impatient. because he wanted to do this swiftly, because Terminus seemed like a good place and the people seemed sort of reasonable by just kidnapping them and not doing anything major. But when Gareth refuses again, Rick just completely loses patience and is cool at this point and shoots off Gareth's finger, similar to the comics with Chris and Gareth's original counterpart, except it's not 2 fingers this time. Whether it be 1 finger or 2 fingers like the comics or the show really doesn't matter to the point where Rick is just losing his cool. At this point, he'd rather just shoot him in the head and be done with it, but he tells him that he's run out of patience and to give him the people back now. And Gareth, like his original show counterpart after Rick shot off his fingers originally, or finger, is just all down on his knees at this point and is just ready to listen to Rick finally, and tells his people to go ahead and get Abraham and Carol and bring them out. Then we get a tearful, nice reunion with everybody that knew Carol mainly and having her back, even though she didn't save him this time. From Daryl first, and then Rick, and then Mika, who unfortunately has to break the news when Carol questions it about where Lizzie is, saying that she got all crazy about the walkers and everything, and Rick tried to put her down, but Daryl did the job for him, and that. Carol would be upset at this, but happy at the fact that Mika is alive. Tyrese would be the next to hug Carol, and says that he forgives her. Carol is confused about this at first, but then explains, Tyrese, that he knows about what happened with Karen and David. Rick and Daryl told him, and that he forgives her. It's pretty, I imagine that Carol would be pretty confused and sad about this, but I feel that it would just drop away right quickly. Rick and Abraham nod in approval at the fact that Rick was nice enough to save Abraham's life too. Then Rick explains that it just felt right to save Abraham too. Rick then turns to Gareth, who's on the ground, in a very Season 5-like way, and says that he's not going to kill him or anybody else here. They did the right thing after they showed authority by giving the people back. And he will not kill Martin or anybody here. But if they ever show their faces around them again, or try anything to kidnap or hurt them again, he will not hesitate to kill every one of them. And they're not staying here, because they can't be trusted. Gareth agrees to this and says to Rick that they will never cross paths again, saying that just like his Season 5 counterpart. And with that, the group leaves Terminus. And Terminus is still intact, mind you. It has not been blown up, and walkers have not flooded in. So, because of this, do you think that Gareth and the group will still survive here? Do you think that they will retaliate in some way, devolving into hunters like before? Or do you think that because Gareth has gotten his finger shot off early, and authority has been shown to the people at Terminus, do you think that they will ever really encounter Rick's group, and maybe even tell the truth like we all thought they were in the original? Or do you think that this is just a ploy, and that Gareth, even in the original, never meant to stay out of their way? And that's where we leave things for the moment, with Gareth and the people actually surviving in this particular set of events, for now, at least. I hope you guys enjoyed the third part of the series and what it's entailed, albeit with small interaction with Negan and the governor at the beginning, but trust me, we will be getting a lot of tension in this story, as you've seen. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.